What's up, Internet? Welcome to another episode of Just Talking Marvel. I really hope this is recording. Now it is. Okay. What's up, Internet? Welcome to another episode of Just Talking Marvel. I am Jonathan, and I have a riddle for you all. How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck would?
Oh,
42.
I got one. I got
This
one.
is this is James. What is his riddle for all of us?
What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age. I'm sorry, I was rewatching it the other day. I was watching something where they were like Batman Forever. I remember Batman and Robin.
All right. How you doing this week, James? What you been up to?
My arm is sore and I got a slight headache. And if you're wondering, no, I am not drunk. I got my first, dose of the COVID-19 vaccine yesterday. So yeah,
Hashtag get the
I got
shot.
I got the Band-Aid. If you can see it to prove it.
Yes, that is also why James does not have his light on right now. But actually, it makes for a cool. It fits with James. The darkness fits. It fits his soul. All right. But what are
Here.
we gonna talk
Make it
about?
even more dark '90s edgy. I'll throw a McFarlane issue of Spider-Man.
What are we gonna talk about this week? We said on the last show that it could literally be anything, and we decided it is actually going to be something. It is going to be the first 6 issues of Brian Bendis's New Avengers run that started in late 2004. This kind of ties in with WandaVision last week because WandaVision was well, not really an adaptation of House of M because a House of M Easter egg in it, but it was really nothing like House of M. But
There was multiple House of M Easter eggs. Like if you remember from the first episode of WandaVision, the wine bottle she that they have is like in French. It's what I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't know French, but it translates out to House of M.
yeah, I know that Easter egg, and it was like, oh, it's the idea of Wanda altering reality to fit what she wants and stuff like that. So it's kind of like that, but I was like, you know what? Let's do the event kind of in between Disassembled and House of M. Let's do New Avengers #1. So we're going to do the first 6 issues here, and we're going to kind of do it in a way that I've never done on a podcast before, and I don't know if this is going to work. So this is either going to go really well or really terribly, or maybe somewhere in between. Maybe there is a gray area here.
The one thing I want to bring up first is you brought up how this is relevant. It's also relevant in the fact that I don't know if it's this week or next week or whatever because I dropped most of my DC books besides Batman. And in the next couple of weeks, Bendis' reboot of Justice League is coming out, which a lot of people have been jokingly referring to as the new Justice League, as a play on course the new Avengers. The cover of his first issue of his run on Justice League is literally a parody of New Avengers 1, where it's all like, here's Superman and Black Adam and Wonder Woman and Batman and shadows where lightning bolts going on in the background. It's like, wow, very original.
It's almost like they're trying to ape off the hype for the Snyder Cut. All right, but
Or it's more like we got Bendis doing Justice League. Let's have him ape his Avengers run. I think that has more to do with it.
all right, but New Avengers #1. I'm using we are using our digital versions on Marvel Unlimited. I have my tablet here. So, opening issue 1. We're going to start the recap. We got Brian Bendis as the writer, David Finch as the penciler, and he is the penciler for this entire arc. The creative team is pretty much the same throughout this entire arc, so I'll just give it once. It is Brian Michael Bendis, writer, penciler David Finch, inker Danny Nicky, colorist Frank Darmada, lettered by Richard Starklings, and Comic Crafts Albert, I don't know how to say that last name. Assistant editors Nicole Wiley and Noli Laser. Associate editor Andy Schmidt. Editor Tom Brevoort. Editor-in-chief Joe Quesada. Yes, say what you will about Joe Quesada and Brian Bendis and whatever you want, but they did give us these issues.
Oh, and like I said, like here, I don't know if the viewers can see, but
there is the Justice League upcoming cover. And
it is exactly him trying to ape New Avengers. They're not even hiding. It's the whole look at the shadow, and look at the people who are now in the Justice League who were never before in the Justice League. You know, just like how Spider-Man and Wolverine were never before in the Justice League.
All right, but picking up where Avengers 503 and Avengers Finale left off, it was the worst day in Avengers history. Was it really?
Well, kind of one of the. Okay, no, I would say it's not the worst day in Avengers history because Avengers 200 still happened. This is the second worst.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, that's right out of the gate. It was the worst day in Avengers history. I feel like worse things have happened to the Avengers than this.
But then again, they were kind of egotistical assholes to Carol, so I can totally see that being like, no, her being raped is the worst day in her history. We were totally fine. Okay, except for Janet, because Janet was jealous that nobody noticed her new outfit because you know, Carol was impregnated by a rape. So it was. I could totally see that actually fitting in with how the Avengers were written in 200, being like, no, Carol's worst day was being raped. Our worst day is one of our own just losing her mind. But then again, it's just Wanda's worst day. Am I right? Because, I mean, I'm Tony Stark. I mean, being a drunk is probably my worst day. And Cap, you being falling in ice and, you know, not being able to see your loved ones again, that probably was your worst day. And all of a sudden, like, and then you got Beast here on the panel where Beast is like, I'm an X-Men. Every day is my worst day.
So the Scarlet Witch suffered a total nervous breakdown after losing control of her reality-altering powers, and the chaos created around the breakdown. Beloved Avengers, Hawkeye, Ant-Man, Scott Lang Ant-Man, and the Vision lost their lives.
And we're all eventually retconned as being alive later.
Yes. So the Avengers broke up, but that was 6 months ago. So now we cut to a shady room where we can only see, where we only have a lamp shining down on Max Dillon. And they're basically like, so we want you to do this job. You want to do this job for us? Yeah. What's the job? You know what the job is. Do I get paid? You get half of it. And if you do well, you get the other half. I don't know. Do you want the job or not? Do I get to wear my costume? Sure. I'm in.
I love it too how you get the impression that they told them no, we just want you to be incognito and just break people out as quiet as you can. Lecture been like, fuck that, and walked out of the room. I'm nothing without my lightning starfish mask.
And I will be like a god to them. A god named Sparkles? Sorry, had to do it.
We're going to get a lot of this, ladies and gentlemen. Electro's in this book. And right. I do want to say, I do love how the PS4 Spider-Man game ties into this, where it's Electro who in the Sinister Six thing that breaks out everybody in the raft. So I love that little, nice nod to the continuity. Even when it's not an Avengers game, there's still like that nod that if we're going to do a breakout scene in a Spider-Man game, it's going to be Electro.
So we're at the raft. Rikers Island's maximum security installation.
Oh, for a second, before we go to that, I just wanted to remind people, you might be wondering, who is that shadowy person? And what is their motive? Their motive is, who are they? I don't know, a Skrull. What's their motivation? I don't know, but somehow I tied into Secret Invasion. Literally, this whole first page was a setup Secret. Ben just had his 8-year plan. This was a setup Secret Invasion. And then by the time he gets to Secret Invasion, because he is a writer who doesn't give a crap about continuity, his book has evolved so much from that point. It's just like literally a toss-up of, yeah, it's still connected, and somehow that was part of the Skrull's plan, but nah.
All right, so a helicopter touches down at the raft. Jessica Drew meets Matt Murdock, Luke Cage, and Foggy Nelson, who really doesn't want to get off the helicopter for justifiable reasons. I'll be honest with you.
Why did they even? And I gotta say, I normally like David Finch's art. Like when his most recent off and on again Batman runs are great because his art style fits with Batman so well. It even kind of fits here with a Luke Cage, with a Daredevil, and even Spider-Man when he's in suit. But it also fails in the Avengers in the sense of look at Foggy. He looks like he's melting into his own skin.
He really does. I mean,
He
I'll
has no chin. It's literally like mm.
let's see. Can you
Foggy
see
looks
that?
Foggy looks like Froggy.
So Jessica Drew is like, "Hey, what's up, Luke Cage? Hey, what's up, Daredevil? I'm not Daredevil."
And I'm not a Skrull.
Sure.
I mean, oh, sure, you're not Daredevil, and I'm totally not the Skrull Queen. That's oddly Pacific, Jessica. Moving on.
So they go down, and they're going down to see a prisoner that they have not yet identified, but we will learn his identity before the end of this issue. So Matt Murdock decides to put all of Foggy's fears right into front and center.
Why is Foggy with Matt? I can see Matt going because Matt's like, okay, I'm another hero. I'm a Daredevil. If it goes down, I'm ready to become Daredevil. Why the fuck did he bring Foggy to this?
Because it's Nelson and Murdock, James. They don't do anything alone.
No. Again, Bendis not caring about his own continuity. The Matt in his current Daredevil run that was happening simultaneous, like I believe it was just ending, like because the Bird-Breaker run was I think was like 6 months to a year after this. So his run is just ending. Matt is like doesn't even want to be Daredevil himself. So I really doubt in a super prison where he's going to meet up with all these other superheroes, he's going to bring Foggy along on a field trip.
So they're walking past cells, and it's like, let's see who we got in here. We got Bushwhacker, we got Carnage, kind of. We have Crossbones, we have Jigsaw, we have Tiger Shark, Vermin, Scarecrow, Mr. Hyde, Purple Man. Wait, hold up. You have Purple Man here? Yeah? What about it?
I have a Netflix account, and I watch me and Jessica's series. No.
So we see Purple Man, and Luke Cage thinks it's a window, and it's like, can he see us? And Jessica Drew points out he's drugged out of his mind, and he's behind like a wall of like adamantium laced steel, and we have power dampeners, and we have like all this stuff. And Luke Cage is like, why don't you just shoot him in the head? And she's like, because America. And I'm like,
because Skrull Queen and he's a part of my plan. What? Nothing. Never mind.
And Foggy's just like, I feel like putting all these guys right in the same building together might not be the best idea. It's almost like something bad's going to happen. Mr. Nelson, please, you're getting ahead of us in the narrative.
So but that's just it with Matt to be so goddamn, sarcastic about that. Matt be like, oh, please, we've been here before. Prison's gonna break out. Now we're gonna get like all these other superheroes. We're gonna have an event. Oh, I can see where it's coming a mile away. And then listen, Foggy would be like, why the hell did you bring again, Matt? Why did you bring me here?
So they take an elevator down to the lowest level, and then all of a sudden, the lights go out. And they're like, oh, so did you pay the electric bill this month? Yep. So why are the lights out? I don't know. What was that noise? Well, that's the generator. Oh, is it turning on? No, it's turning off. How can it turn off if it wasn't even on in the first place? I don't know. Dramatic effect?
Electro's power is like for so much surge that it turned it on when it fried it out and they blew apart.
So, yeah.
I want that no price.
So the power outage extends from not only the raft, but also to the island of Manhattan, as we can see on the next page. And then, boom, you see a massive electrical explosion come out of the raft. And at that moment, Peter Parker and Mary Jane Watson are in their apartment, and they're currently fighting over whether or not they're going to spend the night watching a Hugh Grant movie. And Peter Parker thinks, wow, I actually got lucky here. Not because I get to have sex with this really hot redhead supermodel who happens to be my wife, but no, I get to actually skip a Hugh Grant movie to go fight supervillains.
3 things about this panel. I love the fact that again shows Peter Parker, the fact that his wall has like holes in it and like the wallpaper's falling apart. That is classic, hard on his luck, Peter Parker. Another thing, I like how you get you get Bendis' style of Peter Parker here, with he's more quippy even when he's being Peter Parker, because he wants to write Ultimate Spider-Man. They told him no, this is a 616, so he's like, screw that, fine, I'll write him as a 20-something doing quips every 5 minutes. But yet at the same time, this could fit in so well with what Paul Jenkins is doing in Peter Parker, what JMS was doing in ASM at the time. This really just feel like a slice of the life of the current status quo of Spider-Man. So I do like this moment.
So Spider-Man, he webs off. He's like, all right.
Oh, but my last thing is, we get it. They got to show us that, okay, this, in case you for some reason are not reading the bubbles and just skimming through, this is Peter Parker and Mary Jane Watson. So they put his costume on the couch, which is really dumb because you mentioned, okay, granted, Aunt May knows he's Spider-Man's point. But let's say one of his fellow teachers from ESU wants to stop by and see him and MJ for whatever reason, or our neighbor wants to borrow a cup of sugar. He's got the Spider-Man costume just drinking on the couch there.
All right, so Spider-Man webs off and he's like, okay, problem. That is a prison on an island in the middle of the water, and I need things to swing from, and there are no things to swing from. Oh, there's Captain America in a helicopter. Okay, web. And he webs onto that, and the helicopter is struck by lightning, and Steve Rogers is like, it's okay, soldier, just get us down from here. And the helicopter explodes. But they get out safely. Spider-Man crashes into the water, and he's like, man, this is gonna be so awesome if I can get to this island, because I actually can't feel anything I'm doing right now. I can just trust the fact that I'm swimming to this island. In fact, I can't even hear myself talking to myself. Am I talking to myself? Oh, hi, Cap. So Captain America thinks Spider-Man knows what's going on, and Spider-Man's like, no, I have no idea what's going on. And so Cap is like, okay, well, this is bad. And we see Electro literally.
He calls him a smartass. He literally says no one likes a smartass.
We see Electro literally electrifying every single cell in the place, and then he's like, listen, I broke you all out of here. That means you're in my debt, so you're all my bitch. Now, see you later. And plus, I'm going to take some guy that literally no one cares about except for Brian Bendis.
Yeah. Quickly before that, I do want to point out a few things. I like the Captain America, where he talks more, and I know a lot of people, they said that that's the moment they felt like that Marvel officially entered the 2000s or the modern era, what do you want to say? Because it kind of is, because Cap literally, by any other writer before Bendis would have got on Avengers, would never have called Spider-Man a smartass. Ultimate Cap would, but not 616. This was the first sign of, oh, we're getting a little bit more adult with everybody now. Cap's calling Spider-Man a smartass. And I also like when you look into the villains and you see just all the Z-list characters over Bendis is they won't let me use the A-list villains. So here's all the B-listers that he's breaking.
All right, so in the lower level, Matt Murdock, Foggy Nelson, Jessica Drew, Luke Cage, they're all like, oh man, this is bad. Foggy, go in the cell. Go in this cell. Do not open this door, no matter what. And it's the cell of Robert Reynolds, the Sentry, and it turns out that he is the one that they were sent there to see as a favor to Reed Richards. And why is he sitting in the bottom of this prison? Because he killed his wife. End of issue 1. Moving to issue 2, we pick up right out.
Read, but then again, it's most of Bendis' books.
We pick up outside with the prison break, and Captain America's like, we should have a plan here. And Spider-Man's like, oh, see, I saw this movie from 8 years in the future. It's called The Avengers. And you have this exact argument with Tony Stark where you say we need a plan. And he says, I have a plan, attack. And so I'm just going to do that. And that's pretty much what Spider-Man does. I mean, he literally just says, yeah, I have this guilt complex thing where it's like, even though I know it's not my fault, I'm going to blame myself anyways because I'm freaking Peter Parker. And I blame myself for literally literally anything. So
He,
I'm
he
just
literally says that. Skip ahead a little bit ahead of this. He literally says that when they were looking at the security footage of who caused the breakout, and when he sees Electro, he goes, "It's one of my villains. It's all my fault. I knew it was all my fault."
and then Luke Cage says, "Only in your fucked up head." Except he doesn't say fucked up. Um, so Spider-Man looks in and he's like, "Well, that's a lot of bad guys." And they're like, "Hey, there's like 20 of us and one of him, so we could take him." So they do. They get the mask off. They break his wrist, stuff like that. Spider-Man may or may not poke a guy's eye out. Um, Matt Murdock tries to get through to the Sentry um, in the lower levels, but then at that moment, Carnage shows up behind Foggy. But James, what's wrong with Carnage here?
Again, it's a case of Bendis wanting to. Well, for one thing, he has the Venom teeth, and number two, it's the fact that Bendis didn't want to. Another case of like you'll later on see if we ever decide to continue on with the New Avengers run with Peter Parker, you'll notice a lot. Bendis has his pet character, which means I'm going to write Jessica Jones how I wrote her in Alias. I'm going to write Luke Cage how I wrote him in Alias. I'm going to write Matt as I wrote him in Daredevil, and I'm going to write Spider-Man as I did in Ultimate, including his Rogues Gallery, which is why Carnage here acts more like the Gwen clone vampire made of Peter Parker's blood and lizard DNA from Kurt Connor's vampire Carnage from the Ultimate timeline, and not Cletus Cassidy, that inadvertently ends up causing the retcon that makes Null a thing, because it's literally a retcon that the reason why he's able to survive from being ripped apart like that is because Null or something. I think that's the retcon.
Yes, Null is a reference to the current King in Black event that's going on with Marvel Comics right now. If you're not reading that Donny Cates epic, which
even the way that he's drawn here, he doesn't look like Carnage. It's clearly because they're going for that more modern, realistic art style, but it's like he just looks like Red Venom here.
So yeah, Spider-Woman, Matt Murdock, and Luke Cage, they try to fight him, and then Mr. Hyde shows up, and Mr. Hyde's like, "Huh, Matt Murdock, first face I've seen in a year," and Matt Murdock is like, "I can't see you, lucky me." So they get into a little bit of a fight. You see Spider-Man getting beaten up by literally every Z-list villain in the prison. We've got Fool Killer, we've got Crusader, we've got Cutthroat, and then Cap throws the shield in, and he's like, "This ends now." And so Foggy, in the cell below, Foggy is with the Sentry, and he's like, "Hey, I know you're here because you killed your wife or something. Look, man, I'm not here to judge or anything. I'm just a lawyer. But listen, my friends are out there, and they got these like really special powers, but they're being overwhelmed right now. But you have really special powers too. Think maybe you could like even the odds a little bit, or even sway the odds in our favor, please? Because I'm about to shit my pants because I'm so scared."
And I'm Bendis, and I'm saying, because Bendis says he really wants a Superman allegory here on the Avengers, even though he has Captain America, who should be enough of a Superman allegory.
So Sentry comes out, he grabs Carnage, he blasts through the ceiling. They go out into the upper atmosphere, just outside of Earth's atmosphere, and he rips Carnage in half. Literally, that is not me making it up. I'm putting it to the screen. I think I just turned the page.
And if you look, that is just symbiote goo, meaning Bendis told them just do it being Ultimate Venom Carnage, who is not a real person. Because there is no way Cletus Cassidy was in that symbiote. Even though they eventually retcon, I think it's in the second arc when they're going for the list of everybody who broke out, they say Cletus Cassidy / Carnage deceased, and it's like, no, you can't fix that. You guys fucked up.
So they're like, "Okay, we got Carnage out of here. Let's take care of Mr. Hyde. Hey, is anyone else wet?" "Yeah. What? Where's all this water coming from?" "The ocean, dumbasses." "No, it's actually not the ocean this time." "What is it?" "It's Hydro Man. Now where's Mary Jane?" 90 show reference.
Wrong continuity.
Yeah. Mary Jane. All right. So Spider-Woman, she gets Foggy out of there. Spider-Man, Captain America, Luke Cage, Daredevil, basically every superhero on the island, they're just basically punching and hoping that they take somebody out. It's literally like, if you look at this page, if you look at this 2-page spread, it's like, yeah, so we're in just like a crowded group of people and we're just going to punch them. And I really hope I'm not punching the other heroes, because literally all we're supposed to do right now is hit people and hope they don't get off the island. And one of them throws Captain America up into the air, and then Iron Man arrives, and he's like, hey, so maybe we shouldn't have broken up the Avengers after all. It was your idea, Tony. Yeah, but I'm Iron Man. So yeah, just as they're starting to get control of the situation, Luke Cage, do me a favor, kill all these other...
And just to go back to the Iron Man Cap thing, if you're starting to feel deja vu, it's because literally every Avengers reboot after the relaunch after this point will have that moment of Tony and Steve. It just happened in the current run. It happened in Hickman's run. It happened when Bendis rebooted Avengers after Siege, where it'll be either one of the two. It will either be Steve doesn't think that they need the Avengers no more after Tony broke up the team, or it's Tony thinking they don't need the team anymore, and Steve wants the Avengers to come back. This is will be a trope now going forever now for eternity with Avenger relaunches.
So yeah, Iron Man joins in the fight, and then we hear, Luke Cage, do me a favor, kill all these other hero friends of yours, and then kill yourself. Zebediah Kilgrave, a.k.a. Purple Man. Mind control. Dun, dun, dun.
A.k.a. the Doctor.
To be continued in issue 3. So issue 3 picks up, and we're like, oh man, we can't wait to see what's Luke Cage going to do. Is he going to turn against everybody? What the heck is this? We're on the Shield helicarrier with Iron Man and Captain America. Where's the action? And Bendis does that annoying thing of like, oh yeah, that really intense action scene that I teased at the end of the last issue. Yeah, I'm going to resolve that in literally a panel in like 5 minutes. But Tony Stark throws Steve Rogers a bagel, and he's like, yeah, sorry, they didn't have sesame seed. So, Tony, how many supervillains escaped? 42 as of now. What do you mean as of now? I'm saying we don't have all the intel yet, Cap. So, how many were there on the island? 87-ish. So we kept 45 on the island, and 42 got away. Yeah, we officially did that half-assed. That's not me paraphrasing. That's an exact quote from the book. So yeah, Steve's like, so who did this? And Tony's like, yeah, it's one of Spider-Man's guys. He's an electric mutant, or a mutant electric, or or maybe he's an eel. I don't know. Go talk to Spider-Man. And so then Steve's like, but you know what, Tony? Last night was actually a really good night too. Steve, how was last night a good night? Because you remember what it reminded me of? It reminded me of the story of how the Avengers first got together. Oh, for fuck's sake, Rogers, you're not going to do this to me. Oh, I'm going to do it to you, Tony. So,
you and your idiot team, if you guys didn't get together on that fateful day, you would have unfollowed me from the ice. So yes, you're going to sit here and you're going to hear the story again, because I could be sleeping right now instead of dealing with all this shit.
I could be in suspended animation. Instead, I'm standing here talking to you, the guy who in about 6 months to a year I'm about to go to war with, and then I'm going to end up dead in my own book, and I'm going to be the father of Sharon Carter's baby that never gets born because it's killed, or because the baby is killed by the Red Skull and the Captain America villains, and then all this other shit goes down. Oh, and also Bucky's alive, and I'm about to find that out, and that's going to rock
literally happening. No, that is literally happening at the same time. Because the big thing right here with Marvel when they did New Avengers was like, there's a new Extremis came out, And the Brubaker run of Captain America started the same month. And Josh Whedon's X-Men run started. And Spider-Man was in the middle of Since Past, and Fantastic Four was in the middle of Mark Waid, so they didn't really need like Spider-Man and Fantastic Four. They were fine. They had Mark Waid, they had GMS. All the other Marvel titles, you could tell that they're baking on because of Spider-Man 2 and all the movies that are going on at the time. They're like, we get any new readers. Here's the new Avengers. Here's the new X-Men. Here's the new this. Here's the new that.
All right, so Steve is like, listen, just hear me out here. Luke Cage, he wasn't even supposed to be there. Yeah, he was. He was with Matt Murdock, wasn't he? Yeah,
but why?
Yeah, but why was he with Matt Murdock? Everyone knows he's Daredevil. Yeah, but if we actually say he's Daredevil, he'll sue us for like $400 billion like he did in his own damn book. And that literally comes up in an issue of Ed Brubaker Daredevil later on, like a few years down the line, where Matt Murdock is literally in police custody, and two police officers are like, yeah, so we know he's Daredevil. Why don't we do anything about it? Because he sued the newspaper for like $400 billion and won. Do you have $400 billion? I don't. I have a family. So yeah, we know the guy's Daredevil, but we're not going to do anything about it.
It's because, like, just to bring it up, in the most recent issue of Chip Zdarsky's run, the issue that just came out this week, there's a moment of Matt in the prison where he doesn't have his mask on. He is, oh, my arm's so sore, damn it, that hurt. But his arm, he has both arms behind his back. He's not wearing his mask. The guard goes, Murdoch, you're talking about the psychiatrist stuff. He frantically tries to throw on the mask, and the guy's like, I don't give a fuck who you are under the mask. Just get going. And I love that, because it's clearly like a point of, again, it's like, we all know you're Matt Murdock. You are literally the worst kept secret in all of comic books. Everybody, your worst kept secret. There are people in Metropolis who can't tell that Clark Kent is Superman, but we totally can tell the blind dude's Daredevil. Now get your ass out of that bed.
Yeah. So yeah, we see the moment with Luke Cage and Purple Man, and Luke Cage is like, hey, Kilgrave, guess what? You're drugged out of your mind, so your powers don't work out here. So I
love that moment. I love that moment because that is such a thing. I would totally tell somebody if I'm Luke Cage saying I would play along like must kill my friend. Oh yeah, by the way, your powers don't work, jackass, and then just totally beat the shit out of him.
And to be honest, he has it coming. So
if anybody has read Alias, or at the very least go on Netflix and see a Jessica Jones on there, they understand why this character deserves it.
So Captain America's like, hey, you don't have to kill the guy. And Cage is like, no, I really do. And he's like, no, you don't. Come on. Let's just take a breath here. And so, yeah, so he's like, it was all these extraordinary people, Spider-Man, Spider-Woman, Luke Cage, Daredevil, Sentry.
I just want to say, I like how David Finch went to the Koichi Sakamoto, school of thought, which is, let's make sure that Jessica's in a really short skirt. So every time she's fight, you just see her legs. Legs for days. Legs as far as the eye can see.
So we see all of them, and Tony's like, you really want to do this again? And he's like, I'm not saying I want to do it again. I'm saying it already happened. And Tony's like, dude, like, we just broke up the Avengers, like, last month in real time. I know, but it's been 6 months Marvel time, so I want a new Avengers team. Yeah, well...
Yeah, but Steve, it's not in Marvel time, because it was literally last issue last month. We were still the Avengers. It's not even that. Avengers finale came out the same week as New Avengers 1.
So, Steve, do we really need the Avengers? Yes, because the Avengers, they're like, I'm out of good jokes. As if I had any good jokes to start with.
It's like, again, Marvel sees the butt money coming in from Spider-Man and Fantastic Four, and and X-Men, and all the movies they're getting from Sony and Fox. Like, why don't we make sure we put a really good Avengers run up right now? Because let's, with the characters that we still have the rights for, let's mill the movie universe with them. Like, that's a part of the new Avengers, is that they're clearly setting up the, the template that will become the Avenger movies.
All right, so so basically Cap's like, no politics, no salary, no benefits, no hot tub.
No, anything that happened in the previous runs of Avengers, which made us boring and unsellable. Because literally, I love classic Marvel. Like, just a little bit of it, behind the curtain. We already are talking about our next episode being like a love letter to Stan, Ditko, and Ramita and Kirby. I love that era, and I do love that era of the Avengers. But it is really repetitive. It's like, here comes the UN representative, and he's gonna say, "Oh, the Avengers need to be limited to this thing," and then Tony's gonna show up as the representative because nobody knows he's Iron Man to go talk to the UN about getting a grant and money and a pay card for the Avengers as UN government soldier. And then I like to solve this. It's like, no, why don't we just do a fucking superhero team that teams up and beats the crap out of villains?
And Tony's like, let me think about it. And Steve Rogers is like, great, I'll go get the team. And he's like, oh, for fuck's sake. So we go to
you can already see. It's really funny when you rewatch this. This is the birth of the new Avengers, and you already see the cracks that will lead to Civil War, just from the way that Tony and Steve talk to each other.
So we go to the high school where Peter Parker is currently the science teacher, and Steve Rogers is like, dude, you went to work today? You went from last night to this? You went to, like, look at you. You could barely stand. And Peter Parker's like, I know, but the kids need a teacher. And I'm like, I'm half hallucinating, and I'm not really sure if I'm alive. And I think the Green Goblin fucked my girlfriend. But, yeah, like...
That is later? Because, again, for context, these issues are coming out right when Sins Past is either still going on or ending.
So, like, look, I've got a lot on my plate right now. So if I stop moving for even just a second, I'm just gonna fall right through the glass.
I'm gonna blow my own brains out.
Yeah, I'm running. The ground beneath me can't support my weight. All right.
I love it too. You get a sense of Bendis, like if you read his current Superman run or Ultimate Spider-Man or Spider-Man later on after One More Day, where he was the first writer to immediately retcon the whole nobody knows Spider-Man is Peter Parker. Where it's like, you know what? Peter Parker is not going to have a secret identity in my Avenger book. Screw it. Cap's just going to literally show up at the school as Steve Rogers for everybody knows he's going to go, hey, Spider-Man, get in my car. We're going to go team up as Avengers now. You in?
And he's like...
And I just love it, though, because there's some belief that if you go back to JMS's run, they set up Cap knowing that that's Peter Parker Spider-Man. It's that issue when Peter and MJ reconcile and, like, the Latvian terrorist attack happened.
Yeah, I know.
And then Cap gives him that look. Cap gives him a look like, oh, hey, this is one of my close friends for years now, Mary Jane Watson, Parker. And he's like, and he gives him that look like, oh, you can't hide your heart, son. Like, and you can get a sense that Steve was like, so Mary Jane Watson, who's married to Daily Bugle photographer Peter Parker, who took all these photos of Spider-Man, just so happens she's also friends with him, and you call her your very, very special, close, long-term friends, and I literally saw you guys hugging and kissing in the other end of the corner. Either you're screwing Spider-Man's girl, or you're Spider-Man.
All right, so he's like, look, I don't know. I'm kind of a loner, and like everyone hates me, and James, I'll let you take it from here. Why should Spider-Man be an Avenger?
Because he sells.
But why does Marvel think that Spider-Man shouldn't be an Avenger?
Because ignore Marvel team up, and like anytime they try to launch a new book and they throw Spider-Man in the first couple issues to try to sell that book, they told Bendis at first. From the way the story goes, I can't remember if it's Gymnast at the time or Quesada or Bendis, or it's some kind of merger of all of them, where one of them mentions Spider-Man and Wolverine should be on the Avengers. Spoiler for later on in this run. And the answer that they're given from somebody who's one of the old Marvel gatekeepers in the company was, well, Spider-Man's a loner. And they go, oh, really? That's why we have 200 issues of Marvel Team Up, where Spider-Man teamed up with literally everybody in the Marvel universe.
This is why, like, Spider-Man crosses over into literally everybody's book because he sells.
Again, I just like this scene because he brings up you have a Shield file, which I guess you can retcon it being because his parents work for Shield. That's what it is. Like his Shield file is from the parents. But they have set up before that Cap Eater A found out there in JMS's run. But this is literally like invasion of privacy. Like, you know, I'm just going to Spider-Man in a Shield database. Oh, he's Peter Parker.
All right. So Spider-Man's like, I'll try it, but if I don't like it, you can leave. All right. Well, at least the money's good. Oh, there's no money.
Which again, I love this because it is the Parker look. He for years either they would offer it to him and he would turn it down because those Avengers and their ego, they think they're better than me. I'm not gonna take their pity sip from me and letting me join as a scab replacement backup quarterback. Screw you guys. Or I'll be like, I want to be an Avenger. I'm so down on my luck, Parker luck. Why can't I be an Avenger? I wish I could hang out at the mansion with Scarlet Witch and Vision. Now he finally gets the acceptance, and he's finally a member of the team. And he doesn't get any of the perks anymore because it's all gone because of what they set up previously in the issue.
So then we turn to the least Jessica Jones version of Jessica Jones I've ever seen, because look, I've read Jessica Jones in Bendis comics. I've seen the Jessica Jones Netflix series. Jessica Jones in a pink shirt with a heart on it is probably the least Jessica Jones thing I've ever seen in my life.
I don't mind it because I think what they're getting at is this is a happy time for her and Luke. Like, finally, they're together. They're having the baby. They're already a family. They literally get married a few issues later in the annual. Everything. She is now they're gonna have a baby girl. So that's what it is. I think it's the heart. It's to symbolize that finally Jessica and Luke are one big happy family. I don't mind. It's artistically showing you, for the time being, until drama happens in this book, they are finally in a good spot where they got their happy ending. I think that's what it's supposed to show.
So Steve Rogers shows up and he's like, yeah, Luke Cage, I want you to be an Avenger.
And he goes, whoa, hold on a second. I was a C-list superhero from the 70s. Iron Fist isn't an Avenger yet. Ghost Rider isn't an Avenger yet. I actually get to be an Avenger? Sweet! That is literally what his thing is.
All right, so then we finally get the big one. Steve Rogers goes to talk to Daredevil, and Daredevil's like, dude, do you realize how crappy my life is right now? Like, do you realize how bad of a PR thing this would be for you guys? I've already got Matt Murdock as Daredevil all over the front of the Daily Bugle. Now next it'll be Matt Murdock is an Avenger. Yeah, well, Mr. Murdock, here's the thing. You wouldn't be in such trouble if you didn't take off your mask to literally a whole bar full of supervillains and declare yourself the new kingpin of New York, right? You wouldn't be in this position if you didn't do that. Also, you wouldn't be in this position if you just had a damn brain in your head, because literally no one would ever think that a blind man's Daredevil. How did you mess this up so badly?
I do want to say, though, I love how there is that little bit of continuity that Bendis is remembering what he is currently writing in Daredevil, because as we will get later on in the Bendis run in Bendis era, he'll even now currently with DC, he'll do one thing in Action Comics and then forget it in Superman. And they're both Superman titles.
And so then Matt Murdock, not only can Matt Murdock not keep his own damn secret, he's like, sometimes I just look at all the things Peter Parker does in a month. Wait. I didn't say that. I don't know who Peter Parker is. Who's Peter Parker? You brought up Peter Parker, Cap.
I do love it because even though he name dropped Peter Parker, you do get kind of a sense that he never says Spider-Man. He could have just, he's just a guy I knew, Peter Parker, who does a lot of shit. But I also love it too because it's a Bendis has been doing it a lot in this. You notice already in his Avenger run, like, oh, there's gonna be no money, there's gonna be none of this, and none of like crap from the previous Avengers run. Like there's a lot of meta jokes, and this is a perfect example of that, where he literally goes, I sometimes wonder how Peter Parker does all the stuff he does in 1 month. Get it? Because he has Amazing Spider-Man and Spectacular Spider-Man and Web of Spider-Man and Marvel Team Up and Sensational and Adjectiveless and Peter Parker and Nonstop Spider-Man and Friendly Neighborhood and.
All right, and then we see Steve Rogers goes to recruit Jessica Drew. You know, I got kicked off my SHIELD assignment, right? Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah, they said I was a complete and total failure at my job. Well, I mean, a supervillain breakout did kind of happen on your watch, so.
And if you notice, there's foreshadowing for Secret Empire. I mean, not Secret Empire, Secret Invasion in here. Could be Secret Empire too, because Steve's here. There's foreshadowing for Secret Empire. Look at the color of her eyes. They're changing greener and greener in the scene. Each time they cut to a close-up of her, they're getting a little bit more prominent, the green.
I did not even notice that, but I'm looking at it now. Yeah. All right, so we cut to Stark Tower. Spider-Man's swinging up to Stark Tower, and Jarvis opens the door, and Steve Rogers is like, Jarvis, you know what? You're the backbone of the Avengers. You're the reason, without you, the Avengers would be nothing. Remember?
Which is true.
Yeah, it really kind of is. So they all get there. Tony's like,
I do love how on this page, though, how they're like, hey, just in case you forgot that Spider-Man's now an Avenger, he's going to poke his head and go, and like photobomb, and go, hi. And think.
So Tony's like, yeah, I've been working on this tower for a while, and these top 3 floors were going to be my penthouse. I mean, I was going to bring a lot of women up here and stuff, but I guess I have to give it to you guys now because this guy over here won't shut the hell up about the Avengers. So,
I totally already had a table. I totally had the old Avengers table ready to go in my dining room. But I totally, and above the fireplace is a photo of the cover from Avengers 500. But I totally wasn't planning on this being the new Avenger headquarters.
So Steve Rogers says, hey, wait a minute. Jessica Drew isn't here. We should wait for her. And then Jessica is talking to someone, and it turns out, oh, she's a mole. But you learn later on in the run that she is way worse than that.
It's to the point that I almost think it's, spoiler alert, some of the stuff that Bendis sets up here, he pulls a Game of Thrones where it's like people on the internet guessed it, and he was like, oh, we got to now swerve them and go to the opposite. This might have been it. I think one of the people called Secret Invasion first, and then to swerve people, he was like, okay, instead of Jessica being one of these Skrulls, let's say that she's the Queen Skrull. Because this context of this conversation does not make sense with her being the big bad.
All right, but then that's the end of issue 3. We move to issue 4. And so Jessica Drew arrives at Stark Tower, and they get there, and Tony and Cap and all the Avengers are on the phone with Maria Hill. First appearance of Maria Hill in this issue. Yes, people think, oh, Maria Hill, she goes back to the Ditko and Jack Kirby days. At least that's what I thought before I started reading comics, but I saw her in the movies and the cartoons and stuff. And it turns out, nope, she's a Bendis character that Bendis literally just made up, and then everyone just hopped on board with.
Until they did the whole Pleasant Hill event where they were like, fuck her. Finally, because she is I swear to God, Bendis, I think, made her as being, I want to make a version of Nick Fury who is such an asshole. And then they were like, well, we still got to make money on Nick Fury, so he can't be a total asshole. And so they were like, okay, I'll make a woman version who's a bitch. Is that okay? And Marvel was like, deal. Like, that's what it seems like with her.
So they're like, we're putting the Avengers back together.
And she's like, no, you're not.
And it's like, yeah, we are. No, you're not. No, we're not. Yeah, you are. Oh, motherfucker.
I still to this again with Bendis changing things up because people guessed a later on reveal in this run. I almost got a sense that maybe Maria Hill was set up to be a Skrull because the way she really acts with the whole, I don't want a fucking Avenger team, like, makes sense with that kind of thought process.
Yeah, but so they start going through the files and they're like, okay, this is everyone who broke out. This is who we think, and Spider Woman walks in and they're like, hot damn girl.
Because to be fair, this is the first time since I want to say the '80s that she wore the classic Spider Woman outfit.
Yeah, literally, a direct quote from Tony Stark. Well, Agent Drew, in the most PC, non-threatening, professional way I'd like to say, and then Luke Cage cuts in. Damn, girl. That's that's a legit quote from the books.
A post Robert Downey Jr. version of him would not have hesitated to say "damn girl."
So
I,
then,
I do love this conversation that you're about to talk about between Spider Woman and Spider Man because again that is Bendis again because of Ultimate, but still getting Peter Parker.
so then Spider Woman and Spider Man, they're like, Luke Cage asks Spider Man like, oh, so are you two related or something? I'm like, no. I just sort of, gave her my blessing. But then she goes out and gives the name to like 20 other people, which I did not give her the permission to do. So it's like, yeah, I said one Spider Woman could exist. Now there's like 20 of you.
And now there's a Spider Gwen. There's Miles.
There's literally a freaking team of Spider people called the Order of the Web. I did not authorize
you're a
this.
part of, bitch.
Which I did not authorize. Where's my royalty check? And
the one thing I really like about the scene again, it's Bendis being meta with the whole. She was created to be a female corporate because Marvel saw that. Oh crap, we don't want to be DC and let the copyrights lapse for Captain Marvel, so they made obviously the Marvel Captain Marvel, and they made Miss Marvel, and to get those copyrights from DC, and then at the same time they were like, wait, if DC, if that happened to DC, that could happen to us. What copyrights can we form now that we don't have a carrier of? Well, we don't got a Spider Woman. Create a Spider Woman. That is literally why they created Jessica in the first place, was to keep the copyright to Spider Woman because they were afraid of DC pulling a Captain Marvel on them.
All right, so they're looking at the files of everyone who broke out, and they're like, and Spider-Man's like, wait, pause that footage. Electro. How do you know that's Electro? I'd know that blurry shoulder anywhere. Okay, weirdo.
And Peter, that's a different suit that they drew in this issue that looks nothing like it, other than the classic head. The shoulder patch, nothing does not look like classic Electro. So what the hell are you talking about here?
And then we get the moment that James was talking about earlier. Oh man, this is so embarrassing. It was one of my bad guys who did everything. It's all my fault. And Luke Cage is like, bitch, shut up.
And I do like again how clear as day it was David Fincher was like, I'm already on a deadline to get this art done with the current stuff. No, we're just gonna take like some John Buscema, from a Marvel handbook in the 80s of these characters.
Yeah. So they find out that Max Dillon is in Boston, and Tony just happens to have a Quinjet ready. And Steve Rogers is like, so you didn't want to form the Avengers, but you had Stark Tower. You had the Avengers assembly table. You had all this equipment in here. And you have a Quinjet.
And you had Jarvis ready to go.
But you weren't going to restart the Avengers. Tony, I literally. So they get in.
I just want to imagine that what it is that Tony was totally going to restart the Avengers without Cap, and that was going to be the origin of the Mighty Avengers. Is that this was the roster that I actually wanted.
And then that's the true reason for Civil War. I should be an Avenger. No, you shouldn't. Dun dun dun. So Electro walks up to his waitress girlfriend and he's like, "Hey, yeah, we gotta go. We gotta go now." What are you talking about? I'm at work. We gotta go. I can't just leave my job. I have bills to pay. Not anymore. You don't. What? We're gonna go sip drinks on a beach in Wakanda.
Max, aren't they insinuating currently in one of the Satellite Spider-Man books that you're gay? How are we a couple?
And
Bendis
then
doesn't pay attention to that.
And then the Avengers show up behind him, and he's like, no, 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 oh, shit. And they trap him in his own power, and Luke Cage is like, hey, Spider-Man, this is your bad guy. How did you fight him? Well, I used to web up my hands and just beat the crap out of him. Do me up. So Spider-Man webs Luke Cage's hand.
I do like the moment that when he turns around and goes, "Oh no, not you guys!" And then all of a sudden, Spider-Man goes, "Hi, Max," because I can just imagine that Max Dillon, all he sees at first is Iron Man and Cap, and he thinks, "Oh my God, the Avengers are after me," and then he hears "Hi, Max," he's like, "God damn it, Spider-Man, I can't escape you." If you notice, he does. He has a shocked look on his face. They show the next panel where Spider goes, "Hi, Max," and the next page he's like, "Ah!" He's freaking out even more.
All right.
Literally, he loses it more when he realizes that Spidey's an Avenger.
So Max Dillon literally faints because he's that much of a pussy. And so they're like, okay, well, we're not going to get any answers out of this guy. So I guess we have to go talk to all the other Raft people who didn't break out. And Jessica Drew is like, oh, I'm on that. But then Luke Cage is like, okay, get these web gloves off me. I can't. What do you mean you can't? Well, it takes an hour to dissolve. Why didn't you say that? You didn't ask.
Except there have been totally issues before where Luke Cage and Spider-Man team up, like a Marvel team up, or that first issue after Gwen died where Luke Cage is hired by Jonah to kill that murdering Spider-Man. Where literally he's able to rip Spider-Man's webs.
So
but
they
again,
go to
Bendis didn't read it. Bendis doesn't care.
So they go to Rikers Island, and Jessica Drew literally bribes all the prisoners with a box of donuts. She's like, tell me who Electro broke out, and I'll give you a box of donuts. Carl Lycos, Carl Lycos, Carl Lycos, Carl Lycos. And Spider-Man's like, oh, gosh. And they're like, okay, what's so bad about Carl Lycos? Well, he's like this guy who can turn into like a dinosaur or something. Okay, access to shield file. It's restricted. Why is it restricted? That's not good. This is probably set up for something that's going to happen in a later issue. Okay, Spider-Man, where is this guy? Well, he's probably in the Savage Land. All right, we're going to the Savage Land. Not without crashing, we're not. No, you've never been to the Savage Land with me driving. So they get to the Savage Land, and with Iron Man driving the Quinjet, it doesn't crash. They land peacefully, and then it blows up because Spider-Man is always right. And then a dinosaur comes out, and they're like, okay, let's fight this giant T-Rex. And Luke Cage and Spider-Woman they head for the trees, and all of a sudden Luke Cage looks at Jessica, and he's like, Jess, whatever you do not move. Why? Wolverine claws. End issue 4. So issue 5 picks up Wolverine on the cover. James, why is Wolverine an Avenger?
Because X-Men sell and we're trying to launch off that.
But why was Wolverine never an Avenger before this?
Because he's on a million X-Men books, so it wouldn't make sense for him to also be an Avenger.
How much sense does that actually make, James, in hindsight?
Actually, it does make a lot of sense because there shouldn't be like 5,000 X-Men books, but monetary reason, no, it doesn't make no sense at all. It does make sense that if you're forming an all-star team, you want the all-stars. And
hey now,
granted,
we're an all-star.
Granted, in the post-MCU world, that doesn't matter anymore because Doctor Strange is now an all-star, Wanda's now an all-star, Vision's now an all-star. But in 2004, they were considered B-list unsellables that were just thrown in the Avengers so they could be in a book.
All right, so they take out the giant T-Rex, and Jessica Drew slits Wolverine's throat with his own claws. And in her defense, it was self-defense because he came up behind her ready to kill her. And then he's like, you tried to kill me with my own claws. And she's like, you were gonna kill me. And he's like, okay, hold on, I'm still healing here. I need a few seconds to get my vocal cords back together. So they're like, hey, Wolverine, what are you doing down here? Well,
If you read the current X-Men books that are going on right now, he is literally at the same time because Astonishing X-Men, the reboot of X-Men, it was happening again around the same time. He is literally beating the shit out of Scott in his bed. You're fucking Emma Frost. You didn't even let Jean's body go green, and you're already fucking her rival. I hate you, and he's beating the shit out of it.
so yeah, Wolverine's like, yeah, so
Oh, and also Bub is somewhere in there.
he's like, yeah, someone called the X Mansion, and yeah, basically they told me the whole thing, and I came down here because I need to be in the Avengers book.
And one of the villains in here is an X-Men villain.
So they get attacked by a bunch of mutated, like Savage Land creatures created by Carl Lycos, and then everything, they try to fight, and then all of a sudden, sleep. No, that's not actually what happens, but they are affected by sleep gas, and the Avengers wake up and they're all naked, and they're hanging from, I don't know, like a circular dome thing, and Spider-Man's like, I wasn't wearing any underwear to begin with, and Jessica Drew's like, why weren't you wearing underwear? I chafe.
And here's the thing I just want to clarify with this line. So you're telling me this whole time that when Spider-Man's web swinging from New York City and he is just freeballing it?
Yeah,
that is like a porn parody Spider-Man.
He is literally freeballing it. All right.
Maybe we can believe that maybe he has built in his suit like a cup for protection, so he's not kind of freeballing, it just it is in boxers. But still, that is messed up. To imagine all this. Think about how many times Spider-Man has done a pose where like he is stretching out like a McFarlane one where he's stretching out his leg in multiple different directions. His dick is just waiting around in that shot.
Reminds me of that story a few years back. James, remember on the old podcast, there was that story about that Spider-Man statue with a boner in like Korea or something?
No, I do not.
I remember that news story because you were so uncomfortable talking about it, because at the time I was like 16 and you were like, oh my gosh, I'm on a Skype call talking about boners with a 16-year-old. But I was like, oh yeah, there was a Spider-Man poster in like Korea or something, or not a Spider-Man poster, a Spider-Man statue in like Japan or Korea or somewhere in Asia. And the artist was like, yeah, I'm giving Spider-Man morning wood. And we just had like this whole discussion around this statue. And I'm like I'm trying not to say the word boner during the podcast, but it's evident that from everyone on the podcast at that time that I can't.
Because John had a very much, we're not going to swear or nothing on the show, but yet he would break his own rule like 5 seconds into it.
And then I made the joke that I will never forget, because I didn't even make the joke. You thought it was a joke, but it wasn't me making a joke. And I said, all right, we're kind of beating around the bush on this topic. And you're like, oh, for fuck's sake. And I burst out laughing because
that wasn't me. That wasn't me. Thomas was talking to you. Remember, I was like, I'm just out of here, peace. This is weird and awkward. Just call me back in the call when you guys are done talking about this. And then you and John, not you and Jan, who was it? Thomas, were having the conversation. So it was Thomas who told you that.
All right, but so yeah.
And speaking of back to naked people.
Yeah, so back to naked people.
You gotta love that artistic, thing of making sure that they show that Jessica Drew's hair is long enough to cover her nipples.
So they're like, yeah, we're down here. We're doing stuff. Why are you doing stuff? Set up secret invasion.
But But other than the fact that Secret Invasion starts in the Savage Land, this literally has no tie-in to Secret Invasion. Yeah, because Bendis forgot.
So so they get him to explain his like evil plan or whatever, and so Iron Man's like, and then Tony's like, okay, armor activate, sentry mode, take down the take these guys down, and it's like, Tony, you could have put your clothes on this whole time. And it's like, you think about it and you think, well, Tony Stark, maybe he's proud of his naked body. He probably is. So, yeah, they
I
blow.
do love it. I do love it though, because like Jessica's reasoning for that is like, I swear you got to almost be looking for a reason to be naked all day.
So they blow. So they blow the villain straight to hell, and then he transforms into Sauron or whatever, the big, giant dragon thing, and Wolverine's big genius idea: stab him in the neck. But right after they do that, we get a shot right at the end of the issue of Yelena Belova, who you may or may not know is about to be played by Florence Pugh in the Black Widow movie, when/if that movie ever comes out. They say it's going to come out on May 7th. We'll see. I don't know.
I do like how Spider-Man goads Cap in this moment to say Avengers Assemble. He's like, "Oh, come on, Cap. We're not the Avengers until you say it." Okay, fine. Avengers Assemble.
All right, so that ends issue 5, and we get to issue 6, and so they find Yelena Belova's SHIELD team tries to intercept the Avengers, and she's like, "Yeah, let's kill all these guys." But that's Captain America right there. Kill him. But that's Captain America right there. Kill him. But that's Iron Man. Kill him. But they're the Avengers. We don't want to kill them. Fine. Boom. She literally kills one of her own guys just because she's like, you think I won't kill you? Okay. Boom. She blows his brains out. And then so Tony picks up Cap and Luke, Jessica picks up Wolverine, and Spider-Man swings away. And Wolverine again tries to slit Yelena's throat, and only because Cap throws the shield, and Wolverine's like, "What the fuck did you do that for?" She was trying to kill us, and he's like, "We don't kill." And Wolverine's like, "You are such a pussy." So then Iron Man takes all their metal and gets all their guns and everything, and Luke Cage has her, and Jessica Drew's like, "Okay, I have my Venom Sting powers, but wait, I'm the Skrull Queen, and you're part of a shield outpost that is also full of Skrulls. So why am I attacking you?" Because Bendis forgot.
This I don't mind because I think she set her up as a scapegoat. Like, whatever our plan was here, you finished it. Now I'm bringing in the Avengers. They're gonna defeat you, and they'll think that all the stuff in the Savage Land is, water on the bridge, not realizing that we're still mahaha. So it actually does fit.
So then Sauron gets up out of nowhere, and they're like, "Wait, why is that? Didn't that guy just die?" And they were like, "Oh yeah, he absorbs powers, and since I slit his throat, and I have a healing factor, he must have absorbed my power." Son of a bitch. So he scorches Yelena to the point where she literally, at the end of the issue, is literally in full body bandages, worst degree burns you could possibly imagine. And then Iron Man and everyone, they just beat the crap out of Sauron, and that's the end of that. But then they find a remote shield outpost where they're basically enslaving the indigenous people of the Savage Land. And Jessica Drew is like, "Oh no, how could this happen? Even though it's all my idea because I'm the Skrull Queen and they're all Skrulls down there. But oh no, how could this happen?" And then they go in, they want to save everyone, but then nukes come in and the area gets blown to hell. And then we see the Avengers back on the Shield helicarrier, because the Shield helicarrier shows up right at that moment, and Captain America's like, "What was that about? You almost nuked us, Hill." And she's like, "Yeah, there were Savage Land people down there. You killed them. It's what I do. You killed a guy in the first issue of Ed Brubaker's run. You threw him off a train for no reason." "Yeah, but that's different." So,
And this is what I mean by Mara Hill was almost like designed to deliberately be more unlikable than Nick Fury. Almost like you want Nick back in the book after Secret War. Because it's stuff like this where Cap does bring up the point of, you fucking just nuked people and we're supposed to just go along with it? And she's like, well, yeah, ma.
so then Iron Man says, "Hey, Steve, guess what? I think we should make Wolverine an Avenger." "Are you shitting me? He's a killer." "Dude, you literally killed someone in the first issue of Brubaker's run. And how many times have the Avengers killed people?" "But Tony, it's not the same. This isn't what I meant when I said we should reform the Avengers." "Okay, Cap, I'm going to hit you with your own logic here. Remember when the Avengers formed and we found you in the ice? You were our it factor. You were the missing link. And guess what he is? That's what he is to us. Did you seriously just compare Wolverine to me?"
Hey, you both fought in World War II. It fits. Deal with it.
So yeah, Wolverine's now an Avenger, and then you see Yelena Belova in a hospital bed. Like I said, literally burned to a crisp in full body bandages and everything. And an off-screen voice says, "You failed your mission. Do you want revenge?" Yes. Dun dun dun. Next, who is the Sentry? And this storyline doesn't get resolved until who even knows? I don't even know where that storyline gets resolved because I didn't read that part.
Which part?
I don't know where Yelena's storyline gets resolved.
Secret Invasion. It's all literally flipping and running. It was all Skrulls.
All right, but
She is a Skrull in that scene.
I know basically everyone who wasn't an Avenger or Maria Hill was a Skrull in that scene.
Literally, Bendis went out of his way to literally go back into books that he did not like for the other people doing his character and go, "Nah, that person was a Skrull." And then they pulled the ultimate fuck you, which is we're gonna reveal in the ending of the first issue, the cliffhanger spoiler of the first issue of Secret Invasion. It wasn't the Skrull Queen, it was that Hank's a Skrull. So immediately people start to go, "Oh, thank God we can finally retcon him hitting Janet as being the Skrull." And then they went out of their way to say, "No, that Hank is still a douchebag."
All right, but that's the first 6 issues of New Avengers. I know we made fun of it, but it's a good 6 issues. I enjoy it. I enjoy it when I read it. It's one of the first Avengers stories that I ever read. James has a very personal connection with it. I'll let him tell his story, but it's a really good 6 issues. If you have Marvel Unlimited, or even if you don't, go out to your local comic book shop or go on Amazon, whatever, pick up the trade. It's a fun 6-issue read. James, what about you? How about just general thoughts on New Avengers 1 through 6?
Well, yeah, we had a lot of laughs for it, but it's still a pretty good, issue. This is before Bendis hit I am Bendis mode that he's been coasting on the last decade, people would probably say. But at the time here, you don't really get the problems other than a few things that later on get stripped of the one as, "Oh, it was Secret Invasion, ignore it, blah, blah, it's over there." But for the most part, like I said, he got Spider-Man down. He got Cap pretty well. He got Jessica pretty well because obviously he's planning Secret Invasion right now. Lucas, he did good with Luke Cage. He did good with Wolverine. The only thing you gotta complain about is Tony, other than the fact that it feels like, okay, we gotta have Tony and Cap in here because A, they're the link to the old Avengers, and B, it sets up Civil War by them bickering. Tony, I get it's the whole fight time he's fighting, constantly with Steve. Tony almost feels like an afterthought. Like you could have literally just had Cap and these other people as the new Avengers without Tony. Like I think it would actually maybe even fit better, especially what ends up happening later in Avenger issues and stuff like that, where it'd be like Cap form the new Avengers, and maybe you can have Tony being like, "I'm not cool with it. I didn't want to reform the Avengers." So when Civil War happens and he forms the Mighty Avengers, it's like, okay, no, the new Avengers, that was Cap's team. The Mighty Avengers, this was my team. Because it kind of feels that way. Like Tony is literally just like, okay, well, fuck it, we're the Avengers, then I guess.
All right.
But yeah,
With
but
that,
about my back. Oh, sorry, I froze up there for a second. But about my backstory, what is this was literally the first Avengers issue I ever read. Were these six? I literally was coming out Spider-Man 2, really hyped up on comics, wanting to professionally read Marvel comics. I'm one of those rare people that actually did leave the movie theater to the comic book store. And it was a case of, do I want to read Avengers issue 500, blah 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 blah, and or do I just want to wait a couple months and get the new Avengers with Spider-Man and Wolverine on the team? And that's my origin of me being an Avengers fan.
all right. But that's gonna do it for that. For the new Avenger stuff, and that's also going to do it for this episode of the podcast. We don't really have anything else to talk about today. So, James, any final words for the listeners before we sign off?
Not that I can think of on the top of my head, but yeah, just be awesome.
All right, my final words. Thank you, Stan Lee, Steve Ditko, Jack Kirby, Larry Lieber, Don Heck, everyone. Thank you for Marvel. Brian Bendis, David Finch, thank you for the comics that we reviewed today. And my other shout outs, if you can get the vaccine, get the vaccine. Just do it. James did it. I'm going to do it when when I'm eligible to in my state. Just do it. Get the vaccine. All right. We're going to sign off. So we will see you all next week, and good night.